I'm going to tell you about one of the greatest relationships I've ever had in my life. And I'm going to struggle to get through this. But my grandma, her name was Momo. Anybody have a grandma that you gave a weird name to? Right? Okay. Nordina Nicolini. Can you imagine calling your grandma Nordina? That wouldn't be fun, would it? Right? So we grew up as kids and we always knew her as Nordina. Or we always knew her as Momo, sorry. And so going to her house, my grandma lost her husband mid-30s. And because of that, she was on her own. And what she did is she would bartend at night, she would work a factory during the day to make sure that her kids could go and become greater than her, right? And in that, she never complained one lick of a second. She never asked for anything. She was truly in love with her life. And what we did is every Sunday, 20 of us would get around a table that's built for what, 5? Anybody have that kind of dinner? Right? And so we would feast and we would eat pasta and she would ask us about our lives. And it was part of the tradition. You know, it's part of the Italian thing. It's part of what makes, you know, that whole experience great of family, right? But as I got older and as I moved on, I started realizing, you know, the interactions she had with people was so powerful. I mean, she never had a negative word to say to anybody. Now, she had a heck of a lot of candor, right, in telling what you needed to do to get better. She was totally honest with that. She would say, hey, Tony, you know what you need to do is you need to get your grades up so you can go to Notre Dame so you can be close to me, right? And I'll tell you what, when I got accepted to Michigan State, because I wanted to go there, she wouldn't talk to me for about 2 months. And I was like trying to tell her, like, Grandma, it's like, you know, $20,000 a year compared to Michigan State, which I have a scholarship with, you know. She was like, you know, she didn't want to hear it, right? So first off, I wasn't close to her. Second off, I wasn't Catholic. So, but she pushed people in every conversation that she had to get the most out of them. She knew what was possible in the world. She would read and read and read, and she would read about great people. And she would say, this is what this great person does, and this is what you should do too, Tim, because if you do what great people do, then you can get where they are, because I know you can do it. And she did that constantly. And I never really realized how powerful that relationship was, or how valuable it was to me, till one of my best friends was Chinese. And he came over when he was 7 years old. And he was one of my best friends. And he told my Momo things that he never told any of us. We used to call him number one son. You know, we would make that joke, number one son, oh, you're number one son. Well, it turns out that my grandma told me that, you know, you shouldn't say that to Chan because his older brother died. I'm like, his older brother died? She goes, yeah, he jumped on a stick. He actually fell into a trap. And he died when he was 5 and Chan was 3. And he saw the whole thing happen. And I'm like, man, we've been making this joke for 3 years. And he never said anything to us about it. I mean, can you imagine what was going through his head? He was so cool and calm and collected. The guy was cool as the other side of the pillow. And he wouldn't tell us that we were potentially hurting his feelings and sticking a knife in him and twisting it. And she got him to tell him that. She got him to tell him that in 5 minutes. Because she was so engaged and so involved and so cared about his outcome. She made him tell about the whole journey that he used to get sponsored to come through China and through Vietnam to come to this country. He never told me that after 7 years of being in a relationship. Because he really believed that she could connect. They met 3 times. He was on the West Coast. He found out about her funeral. I have no idea how. I have no idea how. They must have been communicating, doing letters or whatever, pen pals, and he came back for the funeral. And he walks up to me and says, you know, your grandmother was one of the best human beings I've ever met. And I was like, wow, man, she had an impact. 2,200 people came to her funeral. It was really powerful. So we're at the funeral, and my grandma did what she always did. Even in dying, she wanted me to go to another level. So here we are. we're at this funeral, and I don't know if you've ever done this, if somebody that's ever kind of died that you really care about, and they go through that that period where they're not themselves. You ever seen that? It wasn't fun. There was 2 or 3 months. I was at college. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see her that way. So I avoided coming home and visiting, right? About 3 months. So I got the phone call that she passed away. And immediately I felt that guilt that goes along with, God, I didn't make and take advantage of the last 2 months. Of course, my family all told me, it wasn't her. She didn't know who she was. It was a different person. It doesn't matter. It's okay. And here we are. We're at the funeral. It's packed. It's bigger than this room right here. And there is at least 500 people there. And it was a really emotional day. Okay? And so what's it called, Catholic? Help me. Priest, thank you. I was going to say pastor, and I knew I was going to catch that. So the priest is getting up, and he's doing all this, this stuff about my Mo, okay? And he didn't talk about her sense of humor. He didn't talk about how many people she inspired. He didn't talk about this and that and the other thing. And my family was like, really grieving, right? Really, really feeling the moment. But not feeling like this was the way they wanted to let her go. And I felt that. Has anyone ever felt something going on in a room and they just feel like they want to act, but they don't have the courage to act right then? They don't have the ability to do it right then. They just wish they would have said something at that moment when it could have been crucial for everybody in the room, and they didn't do it. And you regret it for the rest of your life? Does that ever happen to you? It's not fun, is it? So I was at that moment, and I was sitting probably right about where Marcus is, right? I was way back from everybody. I didn't want to be involved. And so they opened it up, and they asked if anybody had anything to say. And I said, I raised my hand, and I slowly walked to the front of the room, and I said my piece. And I watched how I could change a room. Mood, how they felt about the moment, and what they could do with that instance in time in one instance. I found that. And that's when she put me on this path to do what I'm doing for you today. In dying, she did that. So when I'm talking to you today, and what I want you to walk out of this room with, is if you can make the commitment to help somebody become greater than you, you can look in the eye and you can invest. You don't even have to get them there, but you can invest in them. You can give them everything you got. You can help them in any way you can. That will be the greatest reward out of your own life, and it will affect people they don't even know after they're dead. It can continue to go on for you. So one thing that I can tell you about my Mo is she was the hero of her own life's adventure. She was the hero of her life because she committed to people every day. And she loved people every day. And I don't think we talk about that enough in business and in life. My name's Tony Scelzo. Be more, serve more.